Today, I'm going to talk about how to successfully reapply to medical school and improve your admissions odds. Let's face it, if you weren't accepted to medical school the first time, you're worried that you'll be viewed less favorably as a reapplicant by admissions committees. The last thing you want to do is spend time, money, and effort reapplying to medical school only to get the same frustrating result. More likely than not, you're also feeling overwhelmed by the conflicting messages on how to improve your application. Should you reapply to the same schools or choose new ones? Can you reuse your personal statement? What about your recommendation letters? Applying to med school is a time-intensive, emotionally tiring, and expensive process. You want this application to be your last one. I'm Dr. Pranjal Gupta, medical school admissions expert from Shemmassian Academic Consulting. In this video, I'll discuss how reapplicants are perceived, explain the best ways to change or reuse your personal previous application pieces, and show you how to strengthen your application so you can increase your admissions odds when reapplying to medical school. Let's get started. Regardless of what you've heard, being a reapplicant does not mean AdComs will view you as damaged goods. You'll receive full consideration as any first-time applicant would. And if you've taken the opportunity to improve the problem areas of your application, you'll have an equal shot at getting accepted. Let's look at the facts. Every year, about 60% of med school applicants are rejected from all schools on their list. About half of these students choose to reapply in a later application round, and the other students decide to pursue alternate careers instead of reapplying. If you're deciding to reapply to medical school, you're showing resilience, determination, and a strong commitment to medicine. These are qualities that impress AdComs, especially when combined with good stats, the right extracurriculars, and well-written statements. So forget about the perceived medical school reapplicant disadvantage. It doesn't exist. We've worked with reapplicants for over 15 years and helped them successfully get accepted to medical school. The key is to identify and address the red flags in your previous application. If you want to increase your admissions odds in this new application round, you'll need to make some changes. Here are a few questions to consider as you approach the reapplication process. Yes, if you've improved your application by addressing red flags or strengthening your areas of weakness, you should definitely reapply to any medical schools that invited you an interview previously, since they already expressed their interest in you as a reapplicant. But make an honest assessment. Are you being unrealistic with your med school list? Are you applying to a top school where your stats are far below the average? Save yourself time and effort by being thoughtful in choosing which med schools to apply to. The answer to this question depends on the strength of your previous application. If you have good stats, the right extracurriculars, and you've received several interview invitations in your last application round, you might need only a year to make few small improvements to your profile before reapplying. On the flip side, if you have many red flags to address in your application, wait to reapply until you've improved those areas to meet or exceed the standards. For example, if your GPA was below average and you haven't been able to raise it to a competitive level before the next application round, it might be best to wait another year and take more classes to boost your GPA before reapplying. You have the option of using the same letters of recommendation you submitted with your previous application. However, it might be in your best interest to submit new letters or update your existing ones. If you think one of your original recommenders wasn't a strong choice, you're better off submitting a new letter. For example, if you had previously used a letter from your freshman biology professor, it's safe to assume that replacing it a letter from your post-bac biochemistry professor would be a smart move. Or maybe you've gained a mentor from the medical field since applying who can speak strongly to your potential as a physician, in which case you can ask them for a recommendation letter. On the other hand, if your previous letters are strong, feel free to reuse them, but consider updating the letter to include new achievements or developments. You can ask your recommender to add a new paragraph with the additional information. Maybe you had an original recommendation letter from a doctor you shadowed, but since your earlier med school application, you continued to shadow them and got a chance to be more hands-on in patient care. You'll want to ask the doctor to update their letter with feedback on your recent experience together and any new insights they've gained about you in the past year. The answer is a strong yes. Admissions committees expect reapplicants to write new personal statements, although it's okay if they have the same theme or focus as the statement submitted with your previous application. When reapplying to med school, a strong personal statement will incorporate the way you've grown personally since your rejection. You should use new insights and new anecdotes. The best way to impress AdComs is to demonstrate your continued commitment to medicine in the face of an obstacle like this one. While you're free to take a whole new approach in your new personal statement, we recommend you maintain the same core reasons for wanting to become a physician, although you may seem inauthentic to AdComs. You can leave your older activities alone if you have no new updates or insights to add. However, you can add new achievements to your ongoing activities. For example, if you've continued volunteering for blood drives since your previous application, but you've taken on new responsibilities, you can add the specifics of your new duties to the activity description. Similarly, you might have started a few new activities worth adding since your first application round, so you'll want to include those as well. And of course, you should consider rewriting some of your old descriptions if they're poorly written. More likely than not, you can keep your most meaningful activity choices the same. If you've had significant experiences since your last application, you can designate one new experience as your most meaningful activity, but make sure to keep two of your previous most meaningful selections the same so you don't come across as inauthentic to AdComs. In addition, if one of your most meaningful activities is ongoing or have new updates to share, you should update your most meaningful description with new anecdotes. All right, now that we've gone through several of the questions you may have, it's time to jump into the best ways to assess your application. It's hard to discern what exactly went wrong in your previous med school application. It could be that your stats weren't high enough, or maybe you applied too late, or perhaps your personal statement or secondaries were poorly written. Or maybe you didn't interview well, or perhaps your school list was overly competitive. The best way to improve your admissions odds is to know what went wrong before you can address it and reapply with a stronger application. Take a good hard look at each part of your application. Remember to seek a second opinion as well. Sometimes being too close with the application can make it hard to recognize your application's areas of weakness. For example, maybe you thought your essay was well written, but when a colleague reads it, they point out several glaring issues. This is one big mistake I see many reapplicants make. They come to us thinking their problem is not having enough research experience or applying too late. But after we review their application, we point out the real concerns that would raise red flags to AdComs if not resolved. A great start is to ask AdComs for feedback on your previous application. If you politely express your desire to strengthen your candidacy, some will be willing to identify the issues they observed and give advice on how to improve your chances. After you've honestly evaluated your application and identified your problem areas, here are some ways to strengthen your new application and improve your medical school admissions odds. If your stats are well below the averages of the schools on your list, you need to improve them before reapplying. To raise your GPA, consider enrolling in a post-bac program, special master's program, or extension courses. The best way to earn a higher MCAT score is to take an MCAT prep course or receive one-on-one tutoring before taking the exam. On the other hand, if your extracurricular profile is where your previous application was lacking, spend your gap year gaining the necessary research, patient exposure, shadowing, or community service experience that you're missing. Prioritize activities where you can demonstrate your continued commitment to medicine. Sometimes the reason applicants weren't accepted is that their school list was too ambitious. Compare your GPA and MCAT to the averages of the medical schools you're considering for this new round. Make sure you're not applying to all REACH schools where your GPA is more than 0.2 points lower than the average or your MCAT score is more than 3 points lower than the average. Develop a balanced list with REACH, target, and undershoot schools based on your stats. And remember to include in-state medical schools and several DO programs if they're not already on your list, as you're likely to have better admissions odds at these options. Because most medical schools do rolling admissions, reapplying late puts you at a big disadvantage. Pre-write your statements and your secondaries as early as possible. Submit the AMCAS as soon as you can and make sure to send in your secondaries within 2 weeks of receiving them. Medical schools won't review your profile until after you submit your secondaries, so it's crucial to send them in promptly. If you've received several interview invitations from your previous med school application, it's likely that you look good on paper, but failed to impress AdComs with your interview skills. Practice answering interview questions with a friend or colleague until you're comfortable thinking on the spot and expressing yourself effectively. In addition, you could look for public speaking opportunities to further increase your confidence. In summary, reapplying to medical school isn't easy, but it's not impossible either. Now, you have all the guidance you need to help you reapply to medical school with an improved application and increase your admissions odds. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos. If you'd like to learn more about maximizing your medical school admissions odds as a reapplicant, check out our detailed guide, How to Get into Medical School. I think you'll personally find a lot of value from Lesson 1. Where to apply to medical schools to maximize your admissions odds. The strategies in the guide are the same ones my team and I use to routinely help students get into schools like Johns Hopkins, Harvard, and UCSF. All right, thanks again for watching, and see you next time.